Hi James, it's great to see you, and this is completely different surroundings than when we first met. From back when we first got involved in your packaging, obviously the core focus wasn't so much around sustainability and pack times and things like that. It was more, back then in 10 years ago, it was more, is this going to get things from A to
I think
B?
Kind of sustainability is becoming more and more of an issue. And obviously, people having higher expectations of what e-commerce means. So I think there's lots to discuss here today. And I know we've got a couple of great guests joining us shortly as well, haven't we? We're joined by Steve now, who's one of our clients and a big advocate of packaging and making sure it's right from customer branding.
I try not to lead the customers when we have discussions about packaging and things like that. It's understanding, their business and their journey. And obviously for someone like yourself, the brand is about sustainable products. Obviously, it's important that replicates that.
Yeah, and again, it's seeing it through the whole sort of package. So obviously, again, there's no point doing a fantastic recycled cardboard box that you then put sellotape onto or staples into, because if that then goes into the recycling, that contaminates whatever's trying to be recycled. So you need to make that transition to the paper tapes. And there's no chemicals and there's no glues and things like that in the packaging as well. Otherwise, there's no point making all these recycled boxes if then they actually can't be recycled at the end.
The box, the primary point of packaging is to get it to your customers. The minimum you expect from it is to get it to your customers in really good condition. There's no point using a fungus-based eco-friendly inbox protection when you've got 15-20% damages, because the CO2 to keep replacing that product, keep doing it, it's a massive part of what we do, and looking at those reductions in numbers, obviously making sure the damage rates for yourself is going to be relatively low, obviously.
Steve, I guess for you, and I've seen some companies shipping in paper bags rather than polymer, and I guess that's a nice idea, but again, how far do you go? Because if you stick that in a plane and it's getting wet and it's sat for 4 or 5 days wet, again, the product's damaged.
So I think the technology's getting there and there is improvements, and I'm seeing kind of a lot of new methods and new materials and new sort of treatments that can be added to paper as well, that are going to, I think, get paper there in terms of certainly its durability and adding a level of water repellence to it. So we are shipping globally. A global package could be on and off multiple vehicles, trains, planes, trucks, lots of pairs of hands. It needs to withstand that journey. And I think there are technologies getting there now for paper to do that. But we go back to a point then it's bigger, it's heavier, all that sort of movement is adding to that carbon footprint. And there are new technologies and there's new things out there, and there's compostable materials. But again, shipping those around the world, not everyone has composting available.
No, and also there is a debate. Compostable can cause microplastics, which then goes into the grounds, consumed by the fish. We consume the fish. We're all working, I think the whole market is working towards advancing these things, but you have to realise when something's there and when it's not quite there, and not to jump on a bandwagon and make sure actually this does represent our brand because it does do what we want it to do.
I guess one of the challenges for your very customer-focused brand is the reality of what's the best lowest carbon, lowest pollution, total solution versus what's the perception from the customer gets. Because there's probably some people out there
that's the challenge, James. That really is the challenge. If
it's not in paper, it's not eco-friendly, and they don't care it's been on a jet plane. They don't care that the paper cost all this time to bleach it and to everything else. They just want it in paper because that's their mindset.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head in that we can ship a package to a customer in a nice, beautiful brown paper bag, and they go, great, this is a really eco-friendly company. I know what to do with this. I can put this in my recycling, and you've made that customer happy, and they think that's great. But that's really, I suppose, the easy option, because it does really tick that box.
And that's a challenge for you as a business, isn't it? It's knowing what's right, but transferring that into multiple
educating
consumers
the customer, isn't it?
to get them to do this right. And the easy option is to go down, like you said, the paper mailing bags and things like that. But actually, that's seriously going to have an impact on the carbon footprint of your business. To do that, it's a really hard balance between consumer perception and actual company drivers.
Yeah, and we hold ourselves accountable to our customers. So, we'll regularly get contact going, why are you using plastic bags? And we go, well, they are 100% recycled. They're 100% recyclable. There are other options there, but actually at the moment, as although it's maybe not the obvious solution, this is still giving us the best solution for what we need to get our products to our customers in good condition first time. We recently did a product range that was actually made from a lyocell material. So it's a wood pulp. It's really interesting because it is just a byproduct from the milling industry. They have the pulp left, and we were able to turn that into materials and make clothes out of it. So again, there's kind of examples where these things can work in harmony, and you can take some of these kind of agricultural kind of waste and these byproducts. But yeah, recycling is a bit of a, I suppose, a red herring in that it is so energy consuming to actually go through that recycling process.
What you said there about reusing, reusing waste from one process to make another, I mean that's true recycling, and that's the one that's got the least impact because you've got to pay to dispose of the product anyway. And I'm thinking, Alex, about the shipping boxes you do for us, and we've kind of got 2 glue strips, and you see this a lot of companies now using 2 glue strips, so you can use the packaging on the return journey.
Yes.
Now that's obviously not perfect, but at least you get to use it twice if you're going to return a product, or you can keep it and return something else. So that reusing is almost so much better than recycling.
Yeah, completely. But again, it needs that customer education to go with it.
Because it's like the truest form of recycling, isn't it? To reuse something. Your product is being an active product. The amount of times it's going to be washed, maybe compared to, say, a coat or something of that ilk. You really have to get your technologies, and imagine, in your product quite really honed.
So obviously, activewear goes through a lot of stress. If you're doing squats or you're doing,
absolutely,
working the gym in those clothing, it's going through a lot of stress. And intrinsically, a recycled product doesn't hold that strength that the original product had. So a lot of our recycled materials just don't have that inherent strength. So to actually make them so they can withstand the actual use is a real challenge.
Yeah, I bet.
Otherwise, if your normal leggings last you 5 years, but your recycled ones last you 12 months, then it's not really gaining anything back for the planet.
No, I guess if you've got to make 5 pairs, it's probably worse than...
Absolutely, you might as well have made the 1 pair originally. So we have to find ways of actually getting that strength back into there. So we do use mixes of little bits of lycra and elastane and things which help to hold that sort of together. But one of the challenges you pointed to there is then obviously you wash it a lot. So if you're getting sweaty in the gym, you then wash your clothes, and obviously then you're into microplastics. So microplastics isn't exclusive to the original clothes. When it's recycled and made into something else, you're still going to have that issue.
Coming off in the washing machine actually creates the microplastics through the...
Yeah, so that'll come straight off the clothes and obviously straight kind of out the washing machine and into the water streams. So, there's obviously things, with washing machines that will have a certain level of filtration to take that out. Yeah. But you can also get sort of mesh bags as well to wash your clothing in, which will help to capture some of those microplastics.
Yeah, I'd never even considered obviously I've microplastics in the packaging industry, obviously I'm familiar with, but actually when it comes to microplastics caused in the washing process, I hadn't even really considered that.
Yeah, so it's definitely, anything you have that's a synthetic material is definitely worth getting kind of a filter bag for. You can bag it all up before you wash it, and it just traps those. And it'll just be like fluff,
What do you do with that fluff? Because I can see someone washing the bag out to get the fluff out the bag, and then it's kind of...
So really, you just need to capture it and then pop it into the bin. Yeah, but it'd be a little, small ball of fluff kind of thing. But obviously, that's so much better than it actually being in the water course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The journey. I mean, have you evolved more in the last 2 or 3 years than you have, say, the previous? Because the technologies are catching up with the brand?
So it's definitely been I suppose an interesting time to grow a brand. Obviously we started in May 2019, so we're not even 3 years old yet. And obviously for most of that period it feels like we've been in a pandemic. So that's not necessarily the easiest environment to come visit people like yourself and look at our warehousing, or visit yourselves and look at packaging, and everything is done over video conferencing, and it's obviously been a lot more challenging to probably move at the pace we would have liked in some areas. But we've definitely kind of grown, and we know kind of some of the weaknesses we've got, and we know what we'd really like. And even within the clothing, there's some really interesting new technologies coming, and I've seen some examples of leggings made from a seaweed material, which again, I suppose it's just like a plant. So if that grows naturally, you can just pick that and turn it into something. You know, it's far better than using oil to make kind of synthetic clothes. Then. But yeah, it's definitely been an interesting sort of period to try and grow a brand.
Alex and I were having a chat just before this, and one of the things that was really interesting for me is you said, Alex, about what comes first. A lot of companies, they build the product, and then it's kind of like they think about the fulfillment and they think about the packaging, and they're kind of sometimes left right till the very end. But there was that argument, at what point did you start thinking about, right, how are we shipping it efficiently? How are we packaging it efficiently? How are we going to actually, those elements which make the brand?
Yeah, and absolutely. I think the brand DNA was always that vision that our founder had, that there's this gap in the market for sustainable activewear. And it was making sure we're true to ourselves in that actually carried through everything we do. That's not to say we were perfect from day one. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be things you try and things that don't work. And there's going to be, like I say, things that technologies have moved even within that short time that we found that. And in some cases, it costs money. So sometimes it's, there's this option that's 5p or this better option that's 10p, So sacrificing that little bit extra profit for that better
I think for
option
you guys,
for the
it's
planet.
clear. Have you always fulfilled your orders? Was there another bit, the owner ever do it? One of these from home or?
So we weren't quite a back room. I mean, we did start a lot smaller, so we had another fulfillment provider for probably about the first 6 months. We quickly outgrew them.
I was going to say, how did you know you got to that point?
One of the challenges of our business is we launch new product, and actually, we have a fantastic follow on social media. And actually what you do then when you launch a new product through a social media is you get a real hype and you get a real buzz for that new product that's coming. So we could go instantly from doing 100 orders one day to 4,000 orders the next. And actually that's very challenging. That's not something you can manage in-house very easily without relying heavily on temps and lots of agency staff and really trying to flex your workforce kind of very quickly for that. And really, I think that was what led us to the point of, we've outgrown where we are and we need to find someone that can work with us and really flex those volumes kind of, overnight. And that's what James & James kind of offered us, really.
And at what point did the packaging become was it, consideration day
so
one?
I would say right from the start.
Yeah.
I would say, really from day one, it had to be a sustainable product made in a sustainable way and shipped in a sustainable packaging. We didn't get it all perfect. We didn't get it all right from day one. So we've learned from that and we've evolved that and we keep moving with that. And actually, as we've grown, what you can do more than is hold a factory accountable and actually make them work to a better standard. It's very difficult when you go to a factory and go with like 500 leggings, and can you put them all in recycled plastic and put them in recycled cardboard boxes and use this special label and use this special thing here? It's not worth it for 500 leggings for them. They won't, they're very challenging to get them to do that level of detail.
So it's based on the scalability.
Once you then say, I want 5,000 leggings or 10,000 leggings, they then, actually, we now need to do this. Otherwise, they might go somewhere else to make their leggings. So, we can actually really drive it forward at a lot better pace with, the growth we've had over the last couple of years. And we've actually now can work with some bigger factories that we couldn't have worked with a couple of years ago, and they already are further on that kind of journey. Our outerwear factory in Vietnam is run from solar panels, and they do a lot of work in the sort of community and local environment to sort of maintain.
That's obviously a key driver for you guys by virtue of the product you've had sell.
I would love to say we would make everything in a factory that's solar panelled and 100% recycled materials everywhere. Again, the world's not quite there yet.
No, and I think you have to acknowledge that and say, we have to grow this brand, and we have to do what we can do, but it has to achieve what we're trying to achieve, not just try to tick a box.
Yeah.
And sustainability, it's going to have a massive drive, and it's going to be more of a core focus for a lot of manufacturing.
And I guess that's the challenge in manufacturing and packaging, and in fact the whole kind of sustainability is there's a trade-off. There's not a magic bullet, which is,
No, absolutely there's not.
we're going to do it in paper and therefore it's perfect. There is a trade-off, and it's like you said, there's multiple different things to consider, and it's balancing one against the other to come to what you feel, or the business feels is the best solution now that ticks as many of the boxes as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously one of the challenges with the manufacturing stage is, we're manufacturing in 4 different countries at the moment. We need a packaging they can all get hold of that is sourced locally.
There's kind of 2 aspects, especially when you look at social media and the customer perspective, is there's a lot of businesses that get bad reputation where they're using sustainable packaging. And Alex, there's a recent piece of research, I know your company did, and said 90% of customers wouldn't buy from a company that didn't use sustainable packaging. But then you're using that very much not just to not get negative feedback, but actually get people really engaged in the positive side of.
Yeah, so I mean, we essentially are a brand that was formed and founded with social media at its heart, which obviously is a great tool to have at your disposal, and that is what acquires us customers, and that's got us to where we are now. But equally, if you do something wrong, it can be there for everyone to see very quickly. And I think we'll have all seen examples of where people have ordered things online and they've come in 20 separate individual boxes with packaging, and they have this packaging mounted in the living room, which might be recyclable, that's great. But again, the resource and the carbon footprint from shipping that is not the story you want on social media. So we are definitely accountable to our customers, is kind of how we look at a lot of sort of what we do. And that includes the packaging and how we get that to our customer.
It's funny, if we do a white paper every year and we get more and more engagement as the year, people are more and more prepared to interact and rate the packaging, and it very much, social media, like you said, is a real gift from years ago, having advertising budgets and things like that. It's free media to a large degree, but actually, like you said, if it's wrong, see these things that memory card and a box this big, and it's straight away it's on social media. So
it's the customer starting to hold the businesses accountable.
Of course it is. Yeah, I mean, it's that direct. Change. Most sending somebody a letter and not getting a response isn't very painful. Sending an image through social media, hashtagging in the brands, has a lot of clout. So I don't think that's the core reason why people are more responsible, but obviously people have been held more accountable quicker.
And Steve, just where do you think the future is for packaging for Tala?
I think there are certainly technologies and there's things out there, and we've seen some of the things that have been done with compostable, and it certainly is pushing in the right direction, and science is going to lead some of this. But I think one of the big things is, like we mentioned there, a huge box for a memory card, using technology, be that packing machines or automation, that can actually really shrink down and get the packaging just to the size of the products that's being shipped. Even that as a starting point, even if we're using the same materials, that's going to drastically reduce the amount of materials we're using. So, I think really using technology to use less of what we're currently doing, and then letting science kind of go at the same time.
It's a knock-on effect as well, isn't it? It's the carriers. If everybody has that mentality, the carriers can then transport more parcels per van, lower CO2 emissions. The knock-on effect to correct size packaging isn't just that. It's huge.
Yeah, everything, just shrinking everything down. We're working with our factory in Vietnam at the moment that makes our outerwear, and what we've asked them to do for next season is to vacuum pack everything.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, we'll about half the size of the whole shipment.
And again, thinking about air, if it's going by air or even by sea, halving it, that's 50% less planes or
yeah, so we bring that by sea because it's the most efficient, most sort of carbon efficient method to bring it from there. But if we can halve the size of that shipment, and then it's half the size again when it leaves here to go to our customers, that's a huge impact from something that's actually quite simple and relatively easy to do, is just to
Is that something the manufacturer offered you, or something you went to the
No,
manufacturer
so that's something
with?
we've pushed the manufacturer. As our first outerwear collection last year, it was a small collection as a trial. We can't influence the factories to that level to make that happen. But we're working on next season's outerwear collection, and we really hope we can get that vacuuming in place for that collection then. And that'll make a big difference, not just for us, but they can use that for the clients as well.
Absolutely.
Steve, thanks very much. I know you've got a lot of stuff, a lot of orders to get.
Lots to do
from the store and everything. So thank you very much for taking the time today to join us. Been a really
No
interesting
problem.
discussion.
Great, good to speak to you both.
Yeah, lovely to see you, Steve. Thanks ever so
Thanks,
much.
Alex.
Well, Alex, we try and do everything we can here about sustainable packaging, but I feel a lot more educated
Yeah, I was
about
gonna say.
even more issues that I hadn't really.
Really comprehensive. They're really covered as best as they can, but understood that the market, the technology has to be there.
And I think that's
done nothing without true research.
Really interesting to see a brand that's not just doing it from my customers want it, so I'm doing it.
Yes.
But doing it because they genuinely want to get the best solution out there. And it's not easy, as we've seen.
And especially
really
with a company
difficult.
that's growing like that, to focus that level of time, effort,
Yeah,
resource,
it's a lot of-
financials into that, Steve's great.